Well, our next guest is here. And let me make sure he's pinned.
I already
Yep.
spotlighted him for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Hello,
Richard.
Ev. How are you doing?
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Vanelli. Good to see you guys.
You know, a lot of the insiders are excited because a lot of your images we use for tutorials. You know, so we always mention your name. So they probably thought you were like this fictitious name at Skylum and that you're not real. So everyone, yes, he is real. Now, what is your main job at Skylum?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great start, I think. What I do is mostly related to the partnerships and working with extending our business outside of the North America and Europe. So I'm mostly focused on Asia at the moment, even though I currently residing in Toronto, Canada, because we're in lockdown, as people might be aware. So, mostly focused on Japan and South Korea at the moment, helping our business expand and helping creators discover the tools that we have. So it's kind of like, I think my job is one of the best that you can have, kind of like just letting people try Luminar, fall in love with Luminar and learn more about it. And that's it.
Well, that's great. And again, as you're noticing a theme here at Skylum from our co-founder, creator, to our CEOs, to Av, to the rest of us, they're photo enthusiasts. They absolutely love taking photos, and you see the quality of the stuff that they're doing here. So, well, Av, what do you have for us today?
Well, that is true. The love for photography is deep in my history. I've been doing photography as a hobby for about 20 years now, actually. That makes me feel a little bit older than I think I am. But what I have, I kind of like highlighted a few pictures that I put together. A lot of those are available for people to use at Skylum as examples. But I also use them myself, just kind of like to show the power of Luminar, to edit them, to post them on social media. These days, it's mostly Twitter, actually, not Instagram. But again, it's kind of like where you put them doesn't really matter as long as they see the light of day, I think. So there's a few images, and I'll be going back and forth. For example, while I was preparing for this short session, one thing I was playing with is, of course, Sky AI, as many people who download Luminar for the very first time do. And a couple of images that I played with are pretty damn complex. And that's what I love as a first demo, as a just kind of like a way of getting to things, is getting into photos like this and say like, well, this is of course an edited picture, but if I would have showed you, you would never tell. It looks exactly as real, and I'm just gonna show you before and after in a second. I'm actually gonna do the before and after right here. And you will see that, of course, it's boring blue sky in Japan. I think that's Tokyo, and kind of like adding a sky adds a lot of detail. And again, that's something that was impossible to do a few years back. I'm coming all the way from Photoshop, uh, Photoshop 5.5, not CS5, but Photoshop 5.5 in around 2000 and either 2000 or 2001. And of course, like if you want to do something like this back in 2000, 2001, that was simply impossible. I remember redrawing images pixel by pixel because my camera was 3 megapixel and I really wanted to, paint it, as a high quality picture and print it. But now it's a lot of things that are possible. And once I've done this image, and actually there's only the sky replacement in this one, I can paste it as adjustment from one picture to another to the next. So this one has exactly the same sky, exactly the same settings. And basically that's another thing that I really love. A lot of times, and I'm just gonna get into that in a second, but a lot of times I have those photo shoots where it's 300 photos and you have to deliver them fast, because the first thing that happens once you finish the photo shoot is the question like, okay, when can I see my photos? So back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago, I actually bought an Insta Fuji camera to shoot alongside with me, so I can give the like instant mini Polaroids, like those Instax prints, so people wouldn't ask me for prints right away. So that was my little hack to kind of like get them going. But with all these tools, especially with Space AI, what I'm finding what I finding really useful, and that's again, I'm just going to show you before and after, just a simple embedded sky. That's one of the pre-installed skies in Luminar. And I have a whole catalog of new ones that I purchased today. So thanks for a coupon code. And so yeah, so with this, very cool to see how it works with all the lines, and there's a lot of power lines, of course, as you can see.
Wow.
And very intricate, and you can see all the details. It's not always like this on the start. So if you are not seeing an exact results, you have to get into the sky, and you have to look at the mask refinement, because it tries to guess the best it can. Sometimes it may not be exactly right. So usually, if I load it up and I, for example, put it close gaps at a lower value, you'll start seeing a little bit of imperfections in different spots where it tries to guess, like, is it, should it be masked, should it be not masked? You'll start seeing some power lines starting to disappear. And of course, if I play around with other settings, such as kind of like if there's another sky, this global adjustment will really help to kind of like cover those together. But in general, if I leave it as that, you'll start seeing that there's like little imperfections in different spots. Don't leave it at that. Give it a try. Go to close gaps. Go to global. My usual case is I put global a little bit higher just to cover the new sky with an existing sky, and do the close gaps a little bit higher so that it just tries to mask a little bit more aggressively. And in this regard, you'll see that the lines are back and all the little dots with imperfections are gone. So that is a very clean looking sky image. Not all images are the same. Of course, AI is, can be very tricky, but that's a great example of a complex image. Another few, like I was playing around, there's actually two that I want to show you. One, what I noticed is that between Luminar 4 and Luminar AI Update 2, this image shines a lot better than before. And that is, of course, like I know, working at Skylum, I know what's happening in the background. But before, Sky Replacement was struggling with this image quite a lot. There is a lot of kind of like less of a contrast, especially as it gets like far away, and especially as it gets to the arc. So in earlier iterations, it was really hard to, make sure that the white wall of this beautiful palace is not going to be like, covered with sky replacement. And, I'm going to show you the original. It's nothing to write home about. It's a usual kind of like a hazy weather in Taipei, and covering it with sky replacement, that where it makes a lot of sense. Another thing what I'm finding is we've been looking with our team at what the stock photographers are doing nowadays. And a lot of them are starting to use Luminar to share multiple versions of the same image. So they would have like this photo, it's actually one of my better selling photos on photo stocks. And with this image, they would create like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 versions with different skies and just upload them on stock, especially the ones that are on a lower cost side where you can buy an image for a few bucks. Getting more options means you will get more customers. So I think it's a cool tool to easily kind of like get more options and let the creative people, somebody needs it for a postcard, or somebody needs it for marketing flyer or something like this. That makes it easier to purchase and spend this $2-3. So that's another image that I really like, just kind of like how it works with this. Again, kind of like I had struggled with this in Luminar 4. In Luminar AI, it's a lot more cleaner, and that image actually brings me joy.
Yeah, well, that's the 2.0. Going up another variation on it. It's funny because you tricked me on that last one, Because when I saw it, I was like, okay, so why did you want to change the sky?
I did it on purpose. Yes, there's a few images where I remember we were actually here together in New York, and that image already has a sky replacement, and that image is used widely as well in our team. I just did another sky replacement for this one, but kind of like going and seeing that in different light. There's different reasons for that. First of all, you just might want to see that this image is better than before, period. No, I think everybody will agree with that. But the second thing is that if you're a photographer and you're trying to find a spot, maybe you want to see how this particular spot will look like with beautiful skies. Should even go back, does it make your trip there worthwhile? Because if it's not even worth trying, then maybe you'll go find another spot. And New York, you might take, I don't know, commute might be pretty significant for each individual spots. So in this case, maybe it will save you a trip if you can envision what it's going to look like. You can use the apps that will position the sky for you, so you can use Sky AI to plug in either the sunset sky or sunrise sky. So whatever actually matches the reality. And I think this what makes it a great tool. You can kind of like compose images, as most people do these days. If they go somewhere, they would have like a Pinterest board or something like this with images that they want to shoot or create. So, similar to mood boards of sorts, but more like travel boards, or I don't know how to call them. And that is a great tool to help them out with that. So that's another great example.
Yeah, where I can see it huge, other than real estate photographers trying to take away some distracting clouds, wedding photographers that are stuck in a really just a beautiful location, horrible skies. I can see a lot of my wedding photographer friends are all excited about that, so they don't have to worry about going to Plan B or C. They would tell me that they walk outside, Plan A, just get them up there, take a beautiful shot. Oh, skies are bad, Plan B. It's raining, Plan C. But they said that
exactly. Yeah. And you mentioned a great point. Actually, for the last few days, I spent on the real estate sites looking at different listings. Don't ask me. But one thing I noticed that a lot of photographers are actually replacing skies these days, from the indoor shots and outdoor shots. And it's funny because sometimes by knowing where the horizon line, how it blends, I can tell if it's Luminar. And approximately, I don't know, 40 or 50% of the shots that I'm seeing are actually made with Luminar, which is very, very tricky, because you wouldn't be able to tell unless you kind of know how the technology works, how we put this horizon blending. And that is, a giveaway if you haven't actually adjusted that a little bit more. That's another great image that I already edited, and I'll show you kind of like backwards process for this. So you probably wouldn't believe what it looks like. I don't know if you're ready for that. Here's the before. And here's the after.
Oh, much better.
So there's many different tools that I used here. And what most surprising is that how easy it is. There's only one mask in this. I only used mask to just kind of like make the gold a little bit less gold. So there is the sky replacement included, right? That's the start. That's kind of like the first, a bit of a giveaway. So I'm gonna undo the sky replacement with the reflection, of course. So you'll see without sky replacement, this becomes a bit more, a bit too much, because again, there's nothing before, no clouds basically. Then there is, well, actually I didn't use the sun rays. Then there's a little bit of glow. Always nice to have a little bit of that, kind of like gives you a nice, that mystical touch. So I'm gonna undo that too. There is also a few more. One is right here, landscape, one of my favorite tools. So here I switched foliage and golden hour. So you'll see that golden hour highlights just the leaves and the trees, and I'm gonna do it to 100 so you can see kind of like how it affects that. So that is one thing that I did. And the other thing I did, the foliage hue. I really love this. This is kind of like, I guess, my thing. I shifted to make it more autumn-like. So we have the golden colors without actually going there, 6 months later to photograph in a different time. Again, many tourists, sometimes you don't get another choice. It's hard to get to a lot of crowds on the usual year. And a place kind of like a bit of outside of Tokyo, so many people visit that, but it's still you still need time to go and visit that. So that foliage, I'm going to return it to 0. Golden hour, I'm going to return to 0, and foliage enhancer, which actually makes the colors pop a lot more, just the greens and any foliage. That is something I use to change hue on, so I can do this too and make it into like very different scene very quickly. So that is 2 tools I've done here. A little bit of color, that was actually just to remove extra yellow on this palace. And that's because it was already too high with the foliage there. So removing this, another thing that I use a lot is hue shift. That is to mess with the colors, and I love that. That is something where I use it a lot, not to this degree as you're seeing on your screens, but just a little bit. So usually if I'm at a 0, I'll go to like minus 8 or 9, and it's barely visible, but it becomes very warm and very kind of like autumn-like. So that is another little change. And lastly, there is just color harmony. Just very little change in here with the split color warmth. Again, I'll just undo that, and you'll see that it affects a little bit to give you that contrast, extra contrast here. Just kind of like add some more so you can see the result. And also the hue change, you can see that I can point to a very specific area of which is going to be affected. So to show you even more, look, if I do it at 100 and move the hue, it will affect specific areas which matches that hue. So I'm able to, if I want to make this gold area darker, then I can use that to kind of like darken that. But I can also highlight that. I can also do the opposite and just kind of like just do a little this of a touch and highlight it. And again, like this is what it was before. Very regular image, and we made a very autumn-like, very rich, colorful image out of that with just few tools. And the only thing I've done with the layers, not layers, the masks, was in I think it was in landscape, no, in the yeah, it was in the landscape where I actually just kind of like removed a bit of golden hue from there, and that's it. So that was a 30-second edit and about 30-second removal from that image. So pretty quick and easy.
And where was that taken again?
That's Kyoto. That's in Kyoto, called Golden Pavilion, very popular spot. Everybody wants to capture, of course, autumn colors. When I was there, it was autumn already. We can actually even check when this raw file was taken. That was September, and usually it's getting a little bit yellowish on the trees. I wasn't so lucky, so it was completely green. And I wanted to get this feeling because I knew that I wouldn't be coming back anytime soon to Kyoto at that time. So that's, sometimes it's just like that.
Nice.
All right. How about we go to another interesting tool and do the atmosphere AI? I don't think that many people, capture the essence of that. One thing that I really love is how, aware of its surroundings atmosphere AI really is, and that's going to be a great image for that. I'm not even going to edit anything, just going to show you this atmosphere AI, which is already here. So I'm going to just kind of like toggle on and off. But look, if I go to 100 right here, right, and you can see it starts to go around the buildings. So here it is, going from far, furthest point in the image through the water and closer and closer and closer until it actually hits the buildings and starts building up. And like that's like real fog, you know. So all you have to do is just know the limits, so that, like, you know, don't go 100% on everything, even though of course you can. But if I just do it a little bit, like 55 here, 58, and depth of 18, maybe even 20, I build it up. You know, I have this little beginning that I can use, and then I can add all the remainings, like the accent AI if I want to, a bit of structure, color, maybe add mood, which I love, of course. And we can just add something kind of like match it to Vancouver skyline.
And it's safe to say, when you're adding something like atmospheres, fog coming in, add it to an image that either already has some of it in it or realistically looks like, oh yeah, this looks like it could have, fog. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's very, it's like this little haze that you can see. You know, it looks. This is kind of like before and after, because I did correction, but it's, you know, it's very uh, not very noticeable, but it creates the atmosphere. And just kind of like for the sake of that, we can actually get another image where there's already atmosphere. So this is a real one. This is the real one. And all I want is to add a little bit of that atmosphere. I'm actually going to add a LUT just before that, you know, just something cold, you know, that will remind me of this. But actually desaturate this. Mood tool is one of the best. I use it all the time. I love it. I played a lot with this, and you know, we can create this like nice little touch on top of which we can add other tools as well. And so here, you know, that's one ways. You know, we can just add a bit more, make it a lot more moody, or we can switch and see if other types gonna work for us. So this one creates a bit on the lower side, like even at 100, hey, looks like you wouldn't be able to tell. I can leave it at that. And we can see how it kind of like the trees are not as highlighted. You can kind of like, if when I move it, you're able to see that it's going around trees a little bit more. So that's a cool little tool. And you know, other ways, again, like if we want to go further and misty, I think here I actually like this layered one, just kind of like very touchy, but done. You know, like as simple as that. Very simple, very clean. Edited the color a little bit. Didn't touch accent AI, for example, even though we could, but I think it just creates less moody atmosphere here. So I'm just going to leave it right here. And we have an image that I'm pretty happy with. You know, maybe it's not a print that I would put on the wall, but it's definitely something that I can make my wallpaper. You know,
yes.
makes me breathe a little bit deeper. Yeah.
Now, did you have yeah, right there? So the woman to the left.
Yeah, that's a great example. So here, again, a small photo session, just a few images before and after. One thing that I'm looking forward to, I actually have a few templates that are created that are universal. They have the adjustments, very simple, very minor adjustments for the landscape pictures, and they have minor adjustments for any food pictures that I have, and for faces. So that is a single universal template that I can start with, regardless of what kind of photos that I have. And that is very powerful. You know, if there's no faces, it doesn't apply face stuff, but it applies a little bit of structure AI that will work for both portraits and for, you know, donuts, kind of like very, very useful in that. So that's another image. I'll show you before and after as well. And you'll see, like, you can start seeing like what's happening here, right? There's a little bit of body AI. You probably didn't notice that before. There's a little bit of sparkle in the eyes that were added. There's a little bit of lipstick color and lip gloss that is added. There's also a little bit of the color behind with the, you know, kind of like enhanced behind. But there's a lot of things that are happening at the same time, and we're gonna look at what's added in the edit section. And basically, again, accent AI is not used here. I love it. I think in some cases, like in this one, the light and everything was great. So there's no real need to add extra. I'm going to show you that, of course, it's possible, but then I'm losing a little bit of that, not detail, but focus on the subject. So I'm going to undo the accent AI here. The stuff that you see on the background, that was added my favorite golden hour, as I mentioned before. So that adds this nice, like autumn-like atmosphere, just beautiful, golden day. And same with foliage enhancer. You can see how, how it works very clearly with the foliage hue. So I can make it even warmer. Let's make it in the real fall, right? Canadian fall is just the green leaves. It's just like been edited by Luminar. It's actually really beautiful in person as well. Another tool, Face Light. So that's, of course, super useful, super helpful, like my personal assistant, whom I don't have. So it's very useful to have Face Light instead. Saves me a lot of trouble and a lot of money as well. That is what I use all the time. All the photos can benefit from Face Light. There's not a single one that can be done. But you'll see that there's an eye enhancer. Let me actually zoom in so it's we can see a lot closer here. Eye enhancer at 100, of course, that adds a lot of clarity to the eyes. That's really cool, and that's very noticeable. That's very noticeable, even for people who are streaming that. Dark circles, there's not much to to remove, but it adds a little bit of that highlight. Which is kind of cool, removes a little bit of that, not even dark circles, but just like darkness under the eyes. Eyebrows as well. I really love this. Saves so much time and effort to readjusting this. A lot of stuff done with lips. Again, like saturation, redness, and a little bit of teeth whitening, as you can see, which is kind of like there's like 3 pixels, for teeth. It still works. I was pretty amazed when I was editing this image. And I did skin AI here just a little bit. I think going, for people who have normally pretty nice skin, there's no need to do it a lot. But here's 100. Here's at 100. I think that looks a bit too much on nicer skin. But a lot of times, for people who are shooting really close portraits, try it at 100 to see that you can zoom in all the way on a high resolution camera and see all the pores and all the details. They still stay there. So that's really cool, and I really like that. And body AI, that's just for fun. I don't think it's like really necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. So Thomas asked, can we remove, I'm going to call them blemishes. Yes. Imperfections in the skin, teenage acne, or any blemishes like that. Yes. Now, in this particular image, her skin is very, very smooth.
Yeah. Well, there is the skin defects removal. I did find that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work as perfect. So I think there's a bit of a work before team to really make it stand out. But in some situation, it works like flawlessly. So in this case, it probably wouldn't even react. It's life. Why not give it a try? So let's click skin defects and see what we see. And if it finds nothing, there will probably be nothing. And I don't see any changes.
No. And what's really neat about our AI tools, like you said, if we made this into a template, if you had sky replacement as part of the tool and there's no sky in the scene, it just ignores it and moves on. So
yeah,
we need to wrap it up. But Ev, thank you so much. This was very, very, very
Ev,
helpful.
you're going to be back a little bit later today as well, correct?
I will, yeah. So I'll be back in a couple of hours. I'll show a few more. Look, I have so many more pictures to go through.
We appreciate you sharing all these great tips. This has been very, very helpful. V, while you check with our next guest to make sure they're all ready, I'll answer a couple of the Q&A tips. But Ev, before you go, where can people see more of your photos? I'm pretty sure you've got a gallery or two on this website called 500px.
Yeah, so
I the company and all.
Absolutely, yes. There's this little company called FireNPX that I did start a long, long time ago. It doesn't belong to me anymore. It's just firenpx.com/Tchebotarev, my last name. So that's that's where some of my photos are. I actually pretty active on Twitter, I think, from all because it's very popular with our markets, especially in Japan. So my Twitter is the same, twitter.com @Tchebotarev, my last name. So yeah,
And you
that's
also hang out on Clubhouse now and talk photo tech and art with people too, right?
absolutely, yeah. Hang out with a few of our people on our team and a lot of other connoisseurs of art. So yeah, that's becoming a big tool as well. So thanks for having me once again. I'll share my whole desktop for this one because I have a few things to show. So we'll start with a whole desktop. And all right, I'll just verify that everything is clear and you can see it.
Yep.
Rich? Yeah,
Looks
okay.
good.
All right, so yeah, because I have a whole bunch of windows open, and I wanted to start with a few things. So in this our short, time really flies. First of all, so I want to make sure that we can go and make an image like this from this original image. So kind of like shows you what can be done very quickly and very nicely with Luminar, with reflections, with a whole bunch of tools, and make like an anime style picture if you happen to have, if you happen to shoot uh, basically like blooming flowers that is actually happening right now in some parts of the United States, some parts of Europe as well. So we'll get right to that. And right after this, I'm going to show you my pack with the templates that I created called Carbon Collection. It's on the Skylum Luminar Marketplace. It's kind of like handcrafted with a lot of with a lot of effort, and the end result is that you can make images basically like this, and they can shine very quickly by using those packs, kind of like before and after, make them really kind of like get the right texture and the right atmosphere. So they were made in mind with a lot of kind of like travel photos, and I'm going to show you on different examples how that turns out. So without further, kind of like without any other delays, we're going to start with this image. I'm going to go with the full screen a little bit more, and we're just going to get started. So one thing you should know, this we're editing a raw file that's from Fuji X-T2 and shot a few years back in Tokyo. So the first thing I wanted to do here is go directly to edit, and you will see that, of course, I want to start with a little bit of accent AI. That's going to really be really helpful in this particular shot. So you can see how it nicely adjusts the shadows and the contrast right away. So that's going to be really useful for us. Of course, as you saw with the sky, we're going to have the sky replacement. So I'm going to use one of the included skies, but I do encourage you to take a look at the Luminar Marketplace or Luminar X membership. And one thing you can find there is also some free packages, such as my collection of skies that look very plain, basically look like this. It's called California Clear Skies. That's free. Feel free to download those.
And Ev, that brings up two important points. One, there are lots of freebies in the marketplace, so go there. And two, I know a ton of people who shoot real estate who love having those gentle, simple gradient skies, those photorealistic ones. Sometimes you want a plain sky and not a busy sky. So I've seen people remove clouds with sky replacement because they wanted a simpler scene or they wanted to showcase the property or the real estate.
That is exactly why they were created, for real estate purposes, or when you just want to have a bit of kind of like moody change. It actually looks really cool and Mars-like with some of those gradients. So feel free to use those as well. So I'm going to choose one of the pre-installed skies for this. I think it works really well in this particular example. Not much to change. As you can see, it adjusts very nicely. I can make some subtle changes to the offset, just kind of like to hide some of this transition, do some horizon blending. But frankly, it's nice as it is. I'll only do the reflection amount to 100 because I just want some clouds to start appearing in the reflection. And I think, well, actually,
I want to point out that the new masking tools with the update 2 handle those edges on those flowers beautifully. Plus, there's the fixed details slider if you need to transition that. But it's really impressive how well that handled.
exactly. That's one of the harder cases. And actually, while I was waiting to get onto this call, I decided to create one more image with another type of the background. Very different sky, very different reflections, very different mood as well. So if you look at this too, they are very different in how they look and how they feel. And I chose the sky where there's a bit of a sun, so you can see the shadows, and it's more or less realistic. So could definitely happen, but very different mood.
And you're using skies there to drive the color grading, and with the relighting options, that makes it really simple. And it's a great way to use that as a mood or a helping create an emotion tied to the time of day.
Exactly. Yeah, very natural. And the last thing that I would add here, and actually I do really like, well, I'll just add some glow, is super contrast. And that is something sort of like a secret weapon for me, because in super contrast, what I want to do here, I do want to lower the intensity of the skies just a little bit. So I'll make it just a little bit darker than it was currently. And for midtones and shadows, I actually want to highlight them as much as possible. And the end result would look a lot like anime, where the shadows are basically do not exist. If you've seen any Japanese anime, it's like the shadows are enhanced as much as possible, or like highlighted as much as possible. So it starts looking very like a painting, basically, or like a nice HDR. So that is what I would use a lot of times when I'm shooting the landscapes or nature, because what we're used to, smartphone photography, that is doing so automatically inside the smartphone or iPhone. But with camera such as Fuji or others, you actually have to create that in-house. And sometimes I'm too lazy to do HDR and put it together with Aurora HDR, but actually just use that, because if it's shot during a nice day and my ISO is low, then I can do those without much extra grain appearing in the photo. So that is how far we can take the photo with just 3 simple tools. And again, that's something where it's not a massive change. I'm not Eli to go through like meticulous changes, but I do like that I can change it very quickly from the afternoon sun, when there's again not a lot of texture in the sky, and turn it into something that looks very cool. And so that is one little thing. So definitely use super contrast, and definitely let me squeeze that on the side. Use the packs that are on the website. Here's a package that I have, California Clear Skies. You'll get some of those clear, basically skies that you can use to simplify your look and make it, into the real estate photography or any other types where you just need a little bit of color. Maybe it's a hazy skies, maybe it's just, to simplify that a little bit. So easy to download. And now we're going to go to the carbon collection. So there's a bit of like a specialty what I put in this carbon collection, and that is the use of LUTs and how they combine with the AI tools that they have. So here's one of the images that is processed with this carbon collection, and I'm going to show you before and after right here, so you could see. Basically, it changes the whole feel of the photo, kind of like shows you. Let it load for a second because it's a raw file as well. It changes a lot in the feeling, how how the colors behave, how the greens are changing, and just looks, I think, very marvelous. I wanted to create a closer to Fuji look, like those film type, and that is what's possible. So that is something that you can do as well very easily. Just gonna jump to another photo right here. Another change was this template pack, and I'll go into templates to kind of like jump through a few of those so you can see how they react with the photo. The best part is going to be in the end, where you can actually see what's inside of this template and adjust it accordingly. So maybe you want to have the reds a little bit less pronounced. You can change it, of course.
Yep. And we refer to them as templates rather than presets because a template doesn't just contain settings for the tools. Our templates can include layers, they can include lookup tables, DNG camera profiles, multiple overlays, and they also can have AI tools that adapt. And so it's much more flexible. Plus, with our templates that are purchased, those also work with the For This Photo suggestion engine. But you've also seen today that we showed you how to make your own templates too. So we encourage all different paths. You heard folks like Elia mention that even he picks up other skies to have ideas and options. These are a great way to just jumpstart your creative editing style. Plus, Ev's unlocking the secrets here. So when he applies a template, you'll see exactly how he got to that result. So you can add that to your skill set or modify it to taste.
Exactly, and thanks, Rich, for that. So I'm just going to stop right here. This is the C8 in the carbon collection pack. There's a whole bunch of those. And once I get into the edit, we can see that what's been applied here is a little bit of structure, actually to the negative side. So it's a little bit softer. And like I'm going to take it to -100 so you can see the effect of this. Yep, here it is. So it's almost like a bokeh AI, even though it's not, but it's something that I use quite a lot as well. Not necessarily to make it more, but sometimes to actually make it a little bit softer. So that was at -10 right here. There's a lot of color changes, of course, you can see and follow. And if you need some changes done to this particular photo, like for example, you like the red, but you want to make it more red, then it's possible to just change hue and go and adjust that a little bit. So I'm able to make it kind of like more, sort of like more red, less purple. And then there's orange that's going to adjust a lot in the picture because there's a lot of orange as well. There's also details. So that's part of that adds a little bit of structure to this. Vignetting is something that's important, you know, to make it feel as a film photo, but it's very light. And of course, you can make it a little bit more pronounced, for example. Usually, you know, this template designed to work more or less universally on a lot of photos. Here's another part. There is the special LUT that's been created for those. Named after the template. So apply it a lot. If you feel that the color changes, the lookup table is a lot for you, hey, this is kind of like you can learn from here what is being done to this particular photo, and you can adjust it accordingly independently from all the other tools, such as, you know, there's optics that I like to include in all of the templates, just in case for the raw files, and a whole bunch of other things. And kind of like going back to the same templates, there's a whole different set of photos that I have, like for example, these ones, that are also processed with exactly the same pack. And just to give you a look of before and after, let me load this. This time it's a JPEG, so it will adjust slightly differently. And in case if it's a bit too much, again, you can adjust it not to 100%, but maybe to 50% or so. So here it's loading right now. That is like one of those. It works very nicely on human subjects, outdoor photography, indoor photography, food photography. So kind of like designed to be universal, and sort of like a very advanced Instagram filter in a sense that it has a lot more going for it.
Yeah, and if you go to the marketplace that Ev mentioned, we have several LUT packs available for free and several that are for sale. I've also, in the chat pod, put some extra ones available. So we've been giving away a few LUT packs today that you guys can try out. Lookup tables are used widely by the film industry and the television industry as a way to intelligently communicate color and color grades. And Luminar fully supports them. They work great as a creative recipe for film stocks and other things.
Exactly. So here's another one, just kind of like applying more or less randomly, but just clicking on the photo that didn't have a look and just applying that. I think I'm hungry now. Pictures like this make me a bit hungry. But those are, very universal. You can create your own. I think that's very powerful as well. So don't just use others. Create your own and make it your own as well. There's also a lot of free LUTs that you can try for the mood tool. But this was created with a sense to work on a lot of images, and actually a lot of images that I've been posting, they would include some treatment with one of those templates in the collection.
Cool. Very
right.
cool.
No, yeah. So now we can probably jump to some other images. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, let's take a different style. Ev, if you have any wildlife photos, not to put you on a spot, but we've definitely had a couple of requests for that today. And I always love how structure and texture can bring that to life. If you don't, I know that's not your normal subject matter, although you have some cute snow monkeys, if I remember.
I do, if you don't mind me searching for
That's
just
fine.
a little bit.
You find a wildlife image, and I'll share one thing really quick while you load that up. So we mentioned in the chat that we put some freebies for download. One of those that I added is a cool pack of overlays that you could use the local masking tool, and you just click add texture, and you just click load texture, and we've put some flares in there. So you can go into this light leaks, and there's a bunch of different light leaks that you could browse. Grab one of those and add it, and it's going to drop it in on your texture. And now you could do things like change the blend mode if you want, and that allows you to overlay it nicely, giving it that cool light leak, or you can keep it very traditional. But once you've got that there, you'll notice that you could actually adjust the contrast of the overlay, its saturation, and there's a cool masking tool. So we can use a nice soft brush at a low opacity, and I could gently brush some of that out over the face so it's less intense there. But we can create cool overlays, and you could adjust the opacity of that overlay to taste to really dial it in. So that can give you some fun effects there. Let me know when you're set, Ev.
I am set. Yeah, I did find some cute animals, so I'm ready to share.
Perfect.
All right. Let's take a look at this, guys. Okay, so I do have a whole bunch of cute-looking animals. So let's start with this. Also Japan, I'm just going all in with
yeah, in America I feel ripped off. We get stray dogs. In Japan you just get stray deer on the street.
Exactly. They're also very needy. They had a lot of tourists over the years, and so they know exactly what they're getting. So let's just try one treatment with the carbon collection, and then we'll jump into the edit mode. And you can see right away that can improve a lot. Any kind of images, I'll try one more. I think this is a bit on the redder side that I like. And again, this is like and this creates a very nice like film look for that. So I would usually just cycle through 3 or 4 and see, the ones I like the most. I actually do like this one. Yeah, let's go with this one. And I will dial it down in the edit module specifically for the color, so that this will be dialed back just a little bit. Okay.
Yep. And Ev, while you're switching over, a question that we often get is, what about previous templates? If I had templates from Luminar 4, so there's 2 parts to that answer. If you bought templates from us, make sure you log into your Skylum account. Most of those old templates have been updated for Luminar AI, so they'll appear in the native templates area. And if not, when you install Luminar AI, it scans Luminar 4, sees all the templates you have there, and moves those into the legacy area. But you'll get a better experience and better performance if you download those updated versions. So there's two ways of going about that. The legacy area will scan and load everything from Luminar AI on first launch of Luminar AI. It looks for your Luminar 4 templates, your Luminar 4 looks, I should say. And if you bought templates from Skylum's marketplace, you'll find those in your account area for download. Most of them have been updated. Otherwise, just reach out to support and they can help you out.
So here's, I want to point to two things. So first, Structure AI is human aware, but it's not deer aware just yet. So whenever I put it to 100%, it adjusts the deer and the hair quite a lot, as well as the background. So in this case, I feel like there's actually the benefit of using Structure AI and making it like -10 or -20. So if I take it down to like -70, you'll see it acts as the blurring tool in a way, and I do like it a lot. So what I'm able to do is keep it at, let's keep it at like -40, for example. The hair and the sharpness still stays, but now it's a lot softer. It's almost like create this, super soft to the touch, makes it very nice. The second thing is glow. That is something I use a lot on animals or anything with like tiny texture. So if there's hair or there's trees, glow is something that that can create a lot of nice little touch. So I'm gonna go for a higher amount, and then I'll just adjust the brightness just a little bit so that we are not.
And a lot of people are like, wait, I've never seen those sliders before. At the bottom of a lot of our tools, there's an advanced settings. And I always laugh when people say, oh, Luminar AI is not for advanced people. I'm like, clearly you've never actually opened up the tools all the way. It's just we hide some of those controls if you just want to glow, but you just click. So Ev, can you toggle that advanced settings open and close so they see where it is there at the bottom? Yep. Just click and there's a whole nother set of tools. In this case, he can control the color of the glow and how much it affects the highlights. It's amazing.
And of course, people have been asking as well, like, where's Orton tool? It's right here. So there's different types how the glow can be created. In this particular case, I think Orton is not going to work as well as soft focus or as glow. But again, like I can just cycle through them and say, yep, for my purposes, this is probably the best. Sort of like putting Vaseline on top of the filter, which is kind of like a neat trick that videographers use quite a lot. And that is like step one. So the last step here, what I would do is add some details, either through a mask and just kind of like, brush it over, or just by picking the details that I want to sharpen a little bit. And because those details happen to be small, all I have to do is, all right. My computer is running out of memory, so it asks me to.
No problem. I had the same thing. I think we have to tell Fuji to update their web camera utility.
Yeah, but basically just adjusting a little bit of that sharpness on hair is all that's needed. And I'm going to show you just before and after.
And that works really well, folks. You can use the small and medium details and then actually lower the large details, and then we'll take those large background areas and keep them nice and soft and milky.
Exactly. I'm actually going to do just that because I do look at bokeh when I change this because I want to keep it nice and smooth while keeping this area sharp, but not, like soft and sharp at the same time. So that's what glow and the details help me to do at the same time. I'm actually might add some extra glow in here.
Very nice. And what's also cool, a lot of people miss this. If you go to the local adjustment tool and you click on that, a lot of people don't know that under the local masking, so the paintbrush toward the top, when you add a new basic adjustment, you can actually do cool things. No, actually go to the local masking tool, not the tool masking tool.
Here you
but
go.
Under the local masking tool, if you add a new basic adjustment, you can actually brush in negative structure AI. So you could pull structure AI to the left and brush that in if there's an area you want to soften. And negative structure is better than a blur because it just reduces detail without blurring everything.
Yeah, and here I think it's good to do. Since I started with the deer, I think it's good to do structure a little bit to the right. But same idea applies, of course, or do the inverse and just have that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, we really appreciate you coming today and sharing some tips. If people want to catch up with you and follow, where can they see you on the internet?
Just firenpx.com/my last name /Tchebotarev, twitter.com/my last name, which is Tchebotarev, Tchebotarev.
I'll make them type it in the chat for you, but you can also see it overlaid on them in Zoom here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for having me.
Good. Ev, thank you so much for coming. And thank you also for making some cool resources for people to help them with their photography.